Now, I came across our next guest story when I was perusing the internet, and this headline, to be honest with you, I was lying in bed, it stopped me in my tracks. It said, "We should all be able to have babies like white people." What did that mean? Is instantly what I said to myself. And Dr. Andre Perry wrote the article about what he and his wife, Dr. Joia Crear-Perry, faced during their journey to expand their family via surrogacy. And it addressed the uncomfortable issue of race and class, color and economics. Andre and Joia join us now from their home in National Harbor, Maryland. Welcome to the show, doctors. So first of all, when I saw that, I said, wait a minute, what do they mean by this article? They both have doctor before their name. They are higher income, higher learned people. What does he mean by we should all be able to have babies like white people? Andre, what did you mean by that headline, and what was the intention of the story? Because it got my attention.
Oh, yes. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having a discussion on this important topic. And at the Brookings Institution, I study structural inequality, the policies and practices that rob people of opportunity in life. And in that vein, when we're talking about fertility and birthing outcomes, structural inequality, structural racism takes away opportunities from women in particular. But to make a long story short, when we announced that we were having a baby through a surrogate, I told my family, and they replied jovially. They said, "Hey, wow, Andre Perry's really made it. He's having babies like white people." And at the time, I was like, well, she's kind of right, given the fact that so many Black people don't have the kind of insurance that will allow them to pay for these expensive infertility treatments. In addition, most of us have lower amounts of wealth because of past discrimination. And so those factors led me to say, hey, we should be having babies like white people, but the intent is to say we should remove the barriers that prevent people from having families.
In general, and Joya, it's interesting when we looked at the numbers, 48% of Black women, that's the infertility rate, 31% infertility rate in white women. So these numbers are high, double digits for both. But to Andre's point, we're talking about socioeconomic, systemic issues that impact. And I have to be honest with you, being in the IVF clinic, for a while, I did feel guilty for being able to afford it. I felt like the game was rigged. And although I grew up very poor, a 19-year-old single mother brought me home, that now I had an amount of money that put the odds in my favor in some way. How did you process it for yourself?
Yeah, for sure. And thank you once again. For me, being an OBGYN, I knew all the ramifications of infertility. I assumed that when I got married for the second time at 35, that immediately as soon as, I removed the IUD, I would magically become pregnant. And I also knew the reality as a Black woman facing years of racism, classism, and gender oppression, like it wasn't going to be that simple. And yet I had the wherewithal. I had the information as an OBGYN, but I also had the capacity as an advocate to fight for myself, so I understood how to do that. And there is some guilt because many of my patients who were loving and caring and deserve to be able to expand their families, the way that we choose the United States not to cover infertility, every other high-income country covers IVF on public
Right.
insurance.
And Andre, that
Can't
was
get it
my
on private
issue. Joy
insurance.
and Andre, that was my issue because I know that we can break things down through race, through economics, and we should on many things. But shouldn't we be more focused on the companies and the fact that many companies are not providing? I mean, when I got in this business, it was a big story when some, huge successful company was offering daycare. But at the
Hmm.
end of the day, you do have like Starbucks, for example, and that's
Yeah.
just one that comes to mind that provides this. So rather than turning in on each other saying, have a baby like a white person or like a rich person, it's these companies that I feel can
Well,
do better. Am I wrong here?
yeah, no, only half of all employer-based insurance companies provide infertility evaluation. Only a quarter provide ways to get infertility treatment.
Mm.
And because Black people are less likely to have employer insurance, it makes us less likely to get the kind of services we actually need. We believe that having a family is a basic human right.
Mhm.
And to not make that available to everyone is really doing everyone a disservice. But I also believe that government has a role in this. We should have more government backed and plans that enable families to to create their families.
We're going
And
to
because
pause it real
Tamron's
quick coming up because I want to hear your thoughts, Joy. More with these incredible doctors, Andre and Joia Crear-Perry, and the woman who offered to help them grow their family. Their surrogate will join us after the break. It's a family affair. We'll be right back. We're back with Doctors Joia Crear-Perry and her husband, Andre, who struggled to start a family for 3 years before her longtime friend, Q, her friend, volunteered to act as a surrogate. And Q duly joins us now from her home in New Orleans. Thank you so much for joining us. Joia, let me start with you because we were talking with Samantha and Kyle Bush, who said it took over a year for them to find a surrogate for themselves. You don't think that you would have been able to find a surrogate as that option of searching if a friend hadn't stepped through the door? Why was that the case?
For sure. I mean, even since this time, I've had other friends looking for surrogates, and it's really hard. I mean, I had family members to try to assist me, other friends, and Q is just a healthy and an amazing person who, when she was able to do it, it was really awesome. But it's really difficult to find people who, especially for Black women, so many of us have hypertension, or we have been dealing with structural racism for so long that our bodies it's just hard. So Q was there, and she was available, and we just appreciate and love her for that.
I happened to sit on the roof of my home one day on the rooftop talking for hours to Melissa Harris Perry, someone we all know and love, who educated me on surrogacy. I did not know the complexities of it. So Q, you come through the door. You are a mother of 6. You're not a professional surrogate. What compelled you to want to help them?
Well, one day, me and my husband was just driving, and the subject came up, if I was to be asked to be a surrogate, would he have a problem? And he was like, no, because I know you like helping others. So, that would be something nice for you to do. And like probably a week later, Dr. Crear called me. And I was like, Dr. Crear just called me and asked me did I want to be a surrogate. And he was like, well, do it. And I called her right back. She was like, you don't have to rush and answer. And I was like, we won't do it. And she was like, you sure? And I'm like, yeah, come on. So that was it.
Okay, you just act like you went through the drive-thru and ordered a sandwich. I mean, come on. I mean, did you Google things? Did you wait? I mean, that was the most chill conversation ever on something so complex.
I mean, I like helping other people if I can. And once before, when I had just delivered one of my kids, she was like, if I ever need somebody to help me, to be a surrogate for me, I'm going to call you. And I was like, all right. So I was already prepared because she already told me about it.
It's incredible. Andre, when this article came out, the reaction that you received, is it what you wanted? Did you provoke and evoke the conversation that had not been had, which is about Black surrogacy, infertility, and this class issue around it?
Absolutely. So often we blame Black women for the birthing outcomes. We question their diet, their exercise behaviors, and all these other things. And we're not really cognizant of the environmental factors that also contribute to worse birth outcomes. In addition, I don't know how many women and men of around the age 40 have approached me to say, hey, I really want to talk about this, but I'm uncomfortable. I've had a number of women talk about their partners, usually men, who struggle during this period because it is very difficult. There will be arguments, there will be fights. But if we are familiar with our options, then those arguments become less so. So the point of this was to bring awareness to our options, and instead of focusing on abortion and contraception when we're talking about reproductive rights, we should be talking about all the options collectively when we're talking about creating a family.
And Joia, you ended up creating a beautiful son, Robeson. So congratulations on that. How is he?
Oh, he's amazing. He's a active fifth grader. He's super busy, super smart. Many times when he's busy doing stuff, I think to myself, well, we put a lot of energy, so I can't get too mad when he's not listening or following instruction. I'm sure, Tamron, you know that feeling.
Oh,
It's
I
like,
know.
okay,
Every time
a lot
I
of energy to get you here.
with Moses, I'm like, do you know how much you cost? You better straighten up, buddy. So, well, congratulations and thank you so much for joining us for this important conversation.